Thank you, everyone. My name is Alicia Poon. I'm the Curator of Education for the Indian Arts Research Center. So tonight it is my absolute pleasure to be able to kick off our 2018 speaker series, Boundary Breakers, Honoring Native Women in Art, which is part of the Indian Arts Research Center 40th anniversary. I can talk louder. Can you hear me now? Okay, so it's my pleasure to be able to introduce our 2018 speaker series, Boundary Breakers, Honoring Native Women in Art, which is part of our Indian Arts Research Center 40th anniversary celebration. So go us, yay! So first of all, I wanted to thank all of you here, not just for being here, but because of the input that all of you folks have made to help guide our themes from year to year for our speaker series. This year, we've decided to delve into the impact and often untold stories of Native women in the arts. With it being our 40th year, we at the IARC wanted to dedicate the series to someone who has had an enormous impact on not only the IARC, but also the way we understand the art world. And that person is our 1988 to 1989 Katrin H. Lamon Fellow in Native American Art and Education, and the 2000 Ronald and Mary and Susan Dubin Fellow, Nora Naranjo Morse. So this whole entire series is dedicated to Nora Naranjo Morse, and we are so excited to be able to give the series to her. So I wanted to thank Nora for everything that she has done for us here at SAR, and for whether or not she meant to, for turning the art world on its head. For myself, Nora really taught me about grace. She taught me about grace, about kindness, and about the fierceness that can exist in the quiet. In speaking with Nora about the series and what we wanted to accomplish this year, it became integrally important for Nora that we begin with the concept of home. So it was only appropriate that we asked Nora's sister, Tessie, to come speak about the broader concepts that affect women in art through the lens of her family, the Naranjos of Santa Clara, Pueblo. So Tessie Naranjo received her PhD in sociology in 1992 from the University of New Mexico. For many of her adult years, she has served as a consultant to museums, language programs, and various agencies engaged in language and cultural preservation. She was the co-director of the Northern Pueblos Institute from 2005 to 2010 at the Northern New Mexico College, and helped establish the AA and BA degrees in Pueblo Indian Studies. More recently, she has been working for the Pueblo of Pewaukee as a consultant on the They Came Back project, or bringing home on a long-term loan 100 Tewa ancestral pots from the Smithsonian's National Museum of the American Indian in Washington, D.C. In her community, Tessie Naranjo continues to do language and cultural work. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Tessie Naranjo.
I hope everyone who wanted to come got in, and if they didn't, I'm sorry. Let me start by saying that the theme for tonight's, and if you can't hear me, just speak out loud, but I'll try to, yeah, I think this is okay, isn't it? All right. The theme for this evening is to do and to be doing, we Naranjo women. And I'll start by saying that this year, SAR has chosen to honor my sister, Nora Naranjo Morse, for contributions she has made to the institution. The speaker series, which is dedicated to Nora, Trailblazers and Boundary Breakers, honoring Native women in arts, is a fitting tribute to my sister, who has inspired others to be true to their vision and their work. I am honored that Nora has asked me to be one of the speakers in this series. It means a great deal to me to be here with her, to support her as a family member and as her older sister. One of the best ways that I can give a window into Nora's work and process is to tell you about the family of women that she comes from. Tonight, I will not be speaking for all Native women, but speaking about art through my family of women. Some years ago, I talked to an elder from Okeowinge, or San Juan Pueblo, and asked him to give me the Tewa word for art. He said, "There is no word in Tewa for art." I walked away from that interview affected by the conversation. It made me realize how differently we as Pueblo people undertake what we produce with our hands and how we integrate our creative energies into our daily living. Two women who were masters at channeling this creativity into daily life were Gia and Jiahung, our mother and great-grandmother. Jiahung in English means mother corn. Gia is simply mother. Before we continue further, let me introduce you to a Pueblo concept that is the foundation for how we live our life. The closest equivalent is doing. Doing is a word understood and used commonly in Tewa Pueblo communities. We have been doing throughout our long history. We've built amazing homes such as at Mesa Verde and at other early ancestral places. We've long survived by knowing how to grow crops on landscapes where little rain falls. We were and are still about doing. Doing implies activity, persistence, patience, in order to get work done. These Tewa attributes are no doubt a critical part of Nora's process. Another English equivalent to doing is the word industriousness. For us people, doing or being industrious is a basic core value. This presentation is about other core values, including family, language, sharing, caring, all of which are still present in our daily lives. I begin with a brief narrative about Jiahung and continue with Gia, who was raised by Jiahung. I continue with remembrances, then I will share photos of my female siblings, Luisa Romero, Edna Romero, Rena Swensel, Judy or Jody Fowle, Dolly Naranjo Nykrug, and Nora Naranjo Morse. I finish by choosing to talk about 4 young adult children of my siblings, Dolly's daughter Jody, Rena's daughter Roxanne, Nora's daughter Eliza, and Edna's daughter Paula. So now we begin the first photo, and I'll start with a photo of Jiahung. This is Jiahung, our great-grandmother. Our matriarch Jiahung, or Mother Corn, held our family together. She was born in 1867 in Santa Clara. Jiahung was a strong and grounded woman, respected by both her family and community. And by the way, this photo is a picture taken in 1918, and the little girl to the left is Gia, our mother, and then the little boy is our Uncle Manuel. But how I got a hold of this photo a few years ago is I was waiting for a friend to have a birthday dinner with, and I brought my mother, who was in a wheelchair by that time, and I saw this photo, and I couldn't believe my eyes because I had never seen my mother as a child. And I went back to it 3 times, and on the 4th time, I went to her as she was sitting in her wheelchair, and I says, "Gia, who is this?" And she said, that's Jiahung. And who's that little girl? She says, "That's me." And so I treasure this photo. So Jiahung was a strong and grounded woman, respected by both her family and community. She lived according to Tewa Pueblo teachings passed on from previous generations. Our extended family learned how to live our lives as adults based on the teachings of Jiahung and family members before her. Present-day Naranjo women are proud descendants of the strong female, our great-grandmother. Jiahung inherited and lived in an adobe house with her family in the center of Santa Clara, Pueblo. Jiahung's mother, Martina Cajete, who was born 1843, her grandmother, Tanit Bobi Parrot Flower, and her great-grandmother lived in an adobe house in the center of the Pueblo before Jiahung did. So the Pueblo house is quite old with Jia living there, Jiahung living there, her Jiahung's mother and Jiahung's great-grandmother, and who knows before then. I don't know. Jiahung was mother to 8 biological children and took in 7 more children. My older sister Rina described Jiahung in this way. Jiahung was of the worldview and lifestyle that fostered the nurturing ideal. In her adult life, Jiahung served our community as a midwife and had other important community responsibilities. The community recognized and respected her strong community responsibilities, or they respected her strong female presence. Jiahung's principal language was Tewa. She could speak a little Spanish, but almost no English. We learned how to speak Tewa because this was how Jiahung communicated with us as children. Jiahung's former schooling was non-existent, but her community cultural education was among the best. The world that Jiahung grew up and lived in between 1867 and 1953 was one shaped by stories. The stories that shaped people's lives were often told, and many are remembered even to this day. She would tell a story while cooking or making pottery. Jiahung stayed busy managing her home filled with growing children, yet she made time to make pottery. Pottery she used in her home, sold, or traded. According to our oldest sister, Luisa, Jiahung made pottery regularly. Jiahung made big pots called sambe. Luisa recalls sambe being used as storage jars. As a child, Luisa remembers getting bread out from one of the storage jars. Luisa also remembers jars for collecting water at the creek below the village. Jiahung made pots for the house and sold pots to tourists coming into Santa Clara daily on Fred Harvey buses in the early 1940s. Luisa recalls being asked once by Jiahung to walk to the Pueblo Plaza nearby to sell pottery. She remembers selling a small pottery piece for a dime. Luisa became excited and ran home to tell Jiahung about her sale. Jiahung asked about the rest of the pots. Luisa had to run back to the plaza to retrieve the remaining pots. In Jiahung's time, she traded pots to other Pueblo people and occasionally to a few Hispanic Pueblos or families. Stories are remembered about Jiahung being driven by wagon to Chimayo, a community several miles away, to trade her pots for rag rugs or vegetables. During Jiahung's time, community members understood and honored social expectations and behaved accordingly. For example, caring for others was a core value embraced by the community. It was understood that when others were in need, community members were available to help. As I mentioned earlier, the Tewa value of doing or having a strong work ethic was applied daily and in all areas. Rina, my older sister, recalled Jiahung's work ethic in this way. So Rina says, when Jiahung wanted things done, it was to be done her way, and everything was work-oriented. Wesebo, or right away, was a command that was sharp and clear, and there was no questioning that. One of the things that children incorporated very early into their consciousness was that work was necessary to feel good about oneself and to have others think well of you. If it was said about you that you were a hard worker, you felt you were paid one of the highest compliments. Gia took over care of her granddaughter, our Gia, in 1918 when our grandmother Eliza, passed away. Gia was 3 years old. Gia Hun, and this picture is really telling because this was just at the time that Gia Hun's daughter Eliza passed away, and so Gia Hun took over the care of both Uncle Manuel and Gia. As you can tell, Gia is about 3 years old in that 1918 picture. Gia Hun passed on her traditional community knowledge to Gia, knowledge about foods, food preparation, about kinds of natural plants to be gathered from fields close by. These plants were brought home, dried, and later used for food or for medicine. Gia Hun passed other kinds of knowledge onto Gia. And now we go on to the next photo, and this next photo is about our Gia. And I have only one photo of Gia, and I think it's my turn to press forward. Yeah. So here is our Gia right here. Gia married at 18. She had 8 children and took in 2 more into our home, 1 adult and 1 baby. Gia continued the pottery traditions that were taught to her by Gia Hun. Our family remembers a story about Gia when she was about 10 years old in the mid-1920s. She was going for water with her cousin, Pablita Velarde. Gia and Pablita had walked to get water at the nearby creek. On their way home, Gia's jar, filled with water, broke when Pablita bumped into her. Gia Hun made Gia sit down to make another water jar. She had to mix clay with ash, shape the water jar, let the water jar dry, smooth the jar, rock slip the jar, and finally fire the jar. Because of this kind of discipline, Gia became an accomplished potter because she learned from Gia Hun. An elder sibling remembers waking up past midnight on more than one occasion to see Gia working on pottery, building up the coils to shape pots. Gia worked when everyone went to bed because this was the only time she was free to make pottery. When Gia got up from pottery making to make breakfast, my sibling wondered if she had slept. Gia learned her rigorous work ethic as a child. The same sibling said about Gia, above all else, Gia passed on Pueblo songs, stories, philosophies, and values. Gia left us in 1953. Gia Hun left us in 1953. Gia left us in 2004. They have gone to join other villagers, but their spirit and teachings remain with us. We care for family and continue to raise other children needing a place to call home. Caring for family, being hospitable to all persons entering our homes, and preserving our table language are about the values we care about. The core value of doing is what we siblings do in our everyday living. As sisters, our daily lives are taken up with activities that include sewing, sculpting, weaving, writing, cooking, taking care of children and grandchildren. In one of her writings, our sister Rena wrote that daily life and her children and grandchildren mattered most to her. The rhythm of daily life is what we do from dawn until late at night, doing for others and caring for the environment we live in. Today, The repetition of daily life cycles of feeding, cleaning, cooking are sometimes thought of as monotonous and mundane, and yet this is the very place that gives our lives meaning. It is this place that gives rise to artistic expression. Writing became Rena's art form. Nora and my other sisters think similarly, that daily living and doing for others is what matters most. Rena left us October 2015. We miss her. Judy, there are 2 photos now of my sister Judy. Judy. One early afternoon several months ago, I went to visit my sister Judy. Judy lives a few minutes away from my small adobe home, which is the same place that Jiahung and Jia called home. Jody Fowell, or Judy as she is known to us, was standing at her kitchen table, having just come back from the Santa Clara Pueblo Health Clinic, diagnosed with a mild case of pneumonia. And yet, when she walked into her house, she started sanding and smoothing a large, round, 14-inch pot. I left Judy's home that early afternoon as she continued to sand her pot. A short time after this visit, Judy and I went to town in Española to have breakfast. During breakfast, Judy commented on a door design in the restaurant. She talked about how the lines on the door could be incorporated onto a pot. While on walks with me, it is not unusual for Judy to stop and look up at the clouds for design inspiration. I have a second photo of Judy. Judy's really creative. When I first saw this pot, I was just astounded. I remain astounded at the kind of designs that she places on her pots. 2 fish designs. She's working on painting them. Okay, the next picture is about Dolly, my younger sister Dolly. Not too long after my visit with Judy, I went to another sister's home. Dolly lives less than 1 minute from me. Dolly was sitting on her couch, cross-stitching a Pueblo ceremonial shirt for her son. She had been working on the shirt day after day, week after week, month after month. Again, I watched with great admiration as she cross-stitched the shirt and finished it in time for her son to wear it at our major feast day, August the 12th. Dolly's son wore the beautifully finished shirt while singing and drumming for our winter Moiety corn dance. Dolly is an accomplished potter, making beautifully carved Pueblo pottery. Her hands are never still. She chooses to work almost daily on creative projects, be it ceremonial ware, pottery, or items made from wood for use in the kitchen, all the while taking care of grandchildren and other family members. My sister Luisa. Luisa, still able-bodied at 85 years, lives close to Judy, Dolly, and me. She continues to maintain her home, goes for daily walks, and prepares Pueblo foods, which she lovingly shares with family. Luisa was a math teacher at the Santa Fe Indian School. Now retired, Luisa weaves ceremonial belts and mantas, or ceremonial dresses. This one that she had finished doing is a crocheted legging for male dancers. A belt that she's done. As she cross-stitches her mantas, she counts, and I don't have a manta of hers, but she makes mantas for everybody. One day, what she did for me, this was 3 years ago or so, She came with a plastic bag, and she says, "This manta is for you." And so I thought, for me, my goodness, a manta for me. She, without me asking her, decided that she wanted to see me wear one of her mantas that she made. So as she cross stitches her manta, she counts and recounts the stitches on the cloth exactly so that she will not have to undo the cross stitching she has already completed. Luisa makes ribbon shirts and occasionally moccasins, particularly for her son who has ceremonial duties at Taos Pueblo. I have another picture of Luisa here, and this is a long, long belt. It's a belt for when that men wear when we're doing buffalo dancing. She's so multi-talented, it's amazing. She is an amazing, amazing artist. Now on to Rena. Rena built this house a few years ago. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful house. Our dear sister Rena, who also lived in the Pueblo, passed away 2 years ago. Rena wrote many essays and made many presentations about the Tewa Pueblo world. She authored several books, including younger, older ones, a fictional book focusing on the movement of villagers from their ancestral village in the 1400s. Resisting outside explanations of ancestral Pueblo movements, Rena wanted to write from a Pueblo perspective. In other writings, Rena often included comments made by Pueblo members. In one of her writings, she recalled that before one feast day at Santa Clara, some women had gathered at our mother's house to make orno bread, flat prune pies, and sugar cookies. Rena said, one woman working proficiently was asked how she had learned to do these tasks so easily. She responded that, of course, she had learned in the same way that everyone else learned, which was to watch, listen, and to do. Okay, me. I am the fourth daughter of my mother, Gia. I was delivered by Gia Hung, who was a community midwife. I was delivered in her home at Santa Clara, as were my older sisters, Luisa, Edna, Rena, and younger sister, Judy. I now live in that same adobe home where Gia lived and died, the same adobe home where our Gia Hun lived, and where Gia Hun's mother and Gia Hun's great-grandmother lived. This is the place where I am fully nurtured by the past, which is also my present. My older brother Tito recently said that I live without fanfare. A paradox, yet I am very strong inside. Thank you, Tito. I like his assessment of me. It is true. I sometimes doubt myself unnecessarily. But it is that drive to do and be doing that always gets me past these fears and pushes me forward time and time again. Continuation of the Tewa language is very important to me because our philosophy of living is embedded in the language. In order to illustrate this point, I want to introduce this single Tewa word, po'e. This one word has to do with how we walk in this world. And what this suggests is that we walk carefully, thoughtfully. Each one has his or her po'e that has to be walked through as you are becoming. So what I do in my language classes is not only teach words and sentences, but teach those particular words that are about becoming. I suppose one could call this my art. Edna. Our sister Edna lives away from Santa Clara. She has lived at Taos Pueblo with her husband, children, and grandchildren for about 60 years. And Edna is seen right there. This is an older photograph. Oh my goodness, I don't know, maybe 20 some years, 20 plus years old, or more than that, much older than that. But here she is with Argia firing pottery outside. She has lived at Taos Pueblo with her husband, children, and grandchildren for some 60 years. Like our mother, Edna prefers micaceous clay when she makes beautifully shaped pots. Even though Edna lives away from Santa Clara, she keeps memories about her childhood at Santa Clara. She said, Pueblo education is just growing up every day like I did with Jiahun. You learn by observation. So these are Gia and Edna's pots. Now comes Nora. And I'll show you three photos of Nora. I was really struck by these photos. These photos, Nora, or these structures were done in front of the Indian Museum in Washington, D.C. And when I was there this past year, I looked at them and I took those pictures because I just found them so beautiful. Nora, the youngest of the Naranjo family siblings, is a natural artist. Early on, Nora knew art making would be her life's passion. Dolly remembers watching Nora as an early teen using colors that Dolly would never have thought to use. Dolly says Nora creates magic from things others might consider mundane or from material that has been thrown away. Nora continues to travel to faraway places to talk about her clay creations and to read poetry from her book, Mud Woman, all the while remembering where home is as she travels. Dolly says Nora works hard in whatever she undertakes, preparation of foods, building her home, or creating magic when clay sculpting. Dolly says that Nora admits to bouts of self-doubt, but always presses forward. I'll stay with this photo for just a little bit, and now we'll start beginning to talk about the younger adult females in our family. Younger Naranjo adult females, daughters of we Naranjo women, follow the same creative paths their mothers took, that their grandmother Gia took, and that their great-great-grandmother Jiahun took. This next generation of artists apply the same core value of hard work, despite having occasional feelings of self-doubt, such as expressed by Jody Naranjo, an accomplished potter. This is Jody firing her pottery. This is Dolly's daughter, Jody. In a December 2016 Santa Fe, New Mexican article, she wrote, I never felt that I was good or naturally talented. A lot of my family members were. It was easy for them to create beautiful imagery. I decided to work extra hard and use what I had. I always knew that I would be a potter. I never thought of doing anything else or wanted to do anything else. So here is Jody. Now comes Roxanne. There are 3 photos of Roxanne. I like this photo because she and her lady have both their eyes closed. Not too long ago, I asked Roxanne what was important to her. She said, family, place, culture, community, being thoughtful, and living according to Pueblo values. She further added, I have to give rather than to be ego-focused. I want to leave things better than when I came in. Okay, Eliza, our Eliza. Eliza is in the photo with Zach, her brother, and her 2-year-old niece, Zach's daughter, Nora's first grandchild. Liza, Zach, and Akompobi come to weekly Tewa classes. You see her with a pencil, drawing. Zach is on the other side. These classes there are other members in the class, but I just happen to have taken this picture. But we do weekly Tewa classes, and it is the best time of getting together and passing forward the Tewa language. Liza is part-time teacher at the Santa Clara Pueblo grade school. During winter of 2014, Liza worked at the Santa Clara Pueblo dump for about 4 months. During winter of 2014, for 4 months, working at the dump helped her redefine her art making. She said, "It doesn't have to be about creating an object that then is displayed or sold. My artwork are my acts of relationship with the land, community, and living things in my environment. My sense of renewal and my sense of resourcefulness, taking those quiet moments of that winter, pulled together all kinds of information. I became free of defining myself as an artist through a Western definition." This is Paula. Oh, what I didn't mention, and I forgot to mention, and you may already know, Roxanne is Rena's daughter, and of course, Liza is Nora's daughter, and Paula is Edna's daughter. And this photo is a few years old, but it's a lovely photo of family caring for each other. My mother had Parkinson's, and she wasn't able to help herself. So on this particular day, Paula needed, or my mother needed help, and so Paula was helping her. My mother put her shoes on. Edna's daughter, Paula, paid we Naranjo woman a loving compliment when she said, "I come from a family of strong women, and I feel that I've got some positive role models in my aunts. The hardships my grandmother Gia and her grandmother Gia Hung had to endure made them strong because of their lifestyles. We're rooted like trees into the earth, and yes, it is about the earth." These are the last of the photos, and I want to conclude with this Tewa verse, which says, "Within and around the earth, within and around the hills, within and around the mountains, your authority returns to you." This verse speaks of taking the earth and working with it and changing its shape to create a new thing, a thing that is the result of the power of the creative process. Even as we doubt ourselves at times, when we allow our authority to return to us, we press forward to create beauty from clay, in writing, in sculpting, in weaving, in making ceremonial wear, in teaching Tewa, or taking care of our families, living our everyday lives. My sister Nora lives by this. Thank you.